Okay, so what is a mesocycle? This is a cycle of training that lasts anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks. And so remember, with periodization, we're trying to strategically manipulate different training variables so that way we can sequence training phases to stack on each other. And the way that we organize those adaptations and those training goals is through cycles. And so a mesocycle is simply that length of time, 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes they can be a little bit longer, to basically organize that training to focus on one specific outcome. Usually you have multiple mesocycles within a certain training phase or training block that has one overarching goal. So it's very helpful to have this organized in a specific mesocycle. So usually mesocycles are composed of 2 different distinct phases. So you have an accumulation phase, and this is where you are ramping up the training. So it gets harder and harder. You're implementing progressive overload. So it gets harder and harder throughout the accumulation phase. And then you have a deload phase at the very end of the mesocycle. So if we were to use an example of a 6-week mesocycle, the accumulation phase would last for 5 weeks, and then the 6th week you would have a deload phase. And so there are a lot of different ways that you can implement progressive overload during the accumulation phase. Usually you're doing that through volume or through loading, so increasing the weight. I'm going to make another post going into more detail about how to construct an accumulation phase and a deload phase. But essentially that is what a mesocycle is made up of. That's the anatomy or the structure of a mesocycle. So you have a predetermined accumulation phase where you are purposely putting yourself under stress so that way your body can continue to have changes, positive adaptations. If you do not implement an accumulation phase and you're just copy and pasting the same week over and over again of training, then your body sees no need to make any changes in your physiology or anatomy because it's feeling the same stimulus. So when you are constantly implementing progressive overload through the accumulation phase, your body is seeing that there is a need to make a change in itself to adapt to the stimulus that you're placing upon it. Now, the reason that we have a deload week is because we can't do that forever. Our bodies eventually reach a fatigue threshold. And so we have to schedule a deload week so that way we can move 3 steps forward and then 1 step back instead of moving 2 steps forward or 1 step forward and then 2 or 3 steps backwards. And we don't really make any progress over a long period of time. And so if you have been struggling to make progress in either strength or muscle gains, it's probably because you haven't properly structured a mesocycle. And so this just helps us organize the training variables in a very specific and intentional way so that way we can constantly create progress over time without having to constantly run into walls and spin our wheels. And so that is the mesocycle. So hopefully that helps.